I need some traction.
How many of you are Netflix members? How many of you are paying? Oh, I love it. I love it. So I want you to think for a moment about your experience with Netflix, where 0 sucks and 10 is awesome. Okay? I want you to pick a number in your head. So how many of you out there are 9s and 10s? And how many are 7s and 8s? And 0s and 6s? Oh, I love you guys. I see you. I see you. This is awesome. Okay, so I've done the calculation on the fly. This is a Net Promoter Score. This is a survey tactic. It's around 70, right? So typically with Netflix, about 80% are 9 or 10. They're raving. And then you've got 10% that are 0 to 6. And the reason I love you, what could be better about Netflix for you guys? This is hard to figure out, isn't it? Keep going. Tell me. What? Oh, they want more content. More original content that you love. What do you want more of? It's boring, right? And it probably takes way too much time for you to find stuff that you love, okay? And I love spending time with these inherently unsatisfiable people, okay? Which is really what the name of the game is about. Yeah. I got interested in this notion, the idea that your desire to delight customers will drive you to invent on their behalf. I'm always looking for ways to help companies to point in the same direction. And it's always useful if you can find a billionaire who says something you agree with. It gives a lot of credibility, okay? But this is really what I want to talk about today. I want to tell you a little bit about my early career. I was a product manager starting in 1991. I'm older than dirt. And I worked on bang, bang, shoot 'em up games. These are all the letters that I got from our customers. I read them all. My job was to satisfy customers. I was trained to put a picture of the product manager you were competing with on your desk. And it did not help me that much. And this was my first hit product. It was called Elmo's Preschool. And this was the year that Oprah Winfrey threw Tickle Me Elmo's into the stage. And that is just frickin' good luck, okay? But Elmo's Preschool did delight. I managed to delight 2-, 3-, and 4-year-old kids, which was super helpful to me. And then I was a co-founder in a startup called Creative Wonders, so built products all around these different characters. And then sold that company to this dude, okay? He's a Canadian treasure, right? Mr. Wonderful of Shark Tank. And then we took the learning company and helped it to grow, and then we sold it to Mattel for $3.5 billion. That's how Kevin made his money. Because what happened was a year later, Mattel spun this organization out, and instead of being worth $3.5 billion, it was only worth $350 million. And this was a horrible learning for me. I had failed to build long-term, enduring value. I had failed to build hard-to-copy value. This was devastating to me, but not to Kevin. This is Reed Hastings. He's the CEO of Netflix. This is 2005. Netflix began as a DVD by mail company, right? And all of you know what DVDs are? Yes, good. And Reed interviewed me. There was really 2 questions he asked me. The first question he asked was, Gib, can you delight customers? And I said, I built Elmo's Preschool. And luckily, he's older than dirt, too, and his kids had loved the product, okay? And then the second question he asked was, can you do consumer science? Now, luckily, I had asked him a question earlier in the conversation. I asked Reed, what do you want your legacy to be? And his answer was this notion of consumer science. He's like, I'm not like Steve Jobsian. I don't have a sense of fashion and taste, etc. But what we're going to do is create a system where we can test anything to discover what resonates with customers and what doesn't. And that was the whole notion of consumer science. So my answer to him was yes. And I learned how to do that. Okay, so I got the job. So I want to tell you about 2 journeys. One is my early career. This is before Netflix. It was about customer focus, and it was a very fine world. I was very focused on satisfying customers, on listening to them, and I was competing. But I discovered in the second half of my career this better world, which is really about customer obsession. This idea of delighting customers, of experimenting and inventing the future. And that's the world that I want to talk about a little bit today with you. The other part of the journey is to share with you Netflix journey. This is what it looked like in 1999. The 4 designers in the room. What do you think? Okay? And by the way, my theory is all startups suck at the beginning. Okay, so this is how it started. It cost $4 to get a disc delivered to you in the mail. It showed up in like 5 days. There were like 3,000 choices. And then last night, this was my experience. So I hope the designers think it's gotten better. So I'm going to give you some insight about that journey. If you didn't catch my career, to understand it as I go back and forth between education, helping people to learn, and then rotting your brains out through things like bang, bang, shoot 'em ups and binge watching, okay? To understand me, my wife's trying to cure cancer, and after about 5 years of binge watching, it's like, Gib, get onto something good. So my last startup is called Chegg, which came first, the chicken or the egg? We enable students to rent textbooks instead of buying them. So they save billions of dollars in that. It's now a public company. It's worth $5 billion. And I'm in my teacher phase now. I'm hoping you'll learn something today. So customer obsession, I've got 3 chapters for you today. And what I'm trying to do is bring you into the building at Netflix and help you understand how Netflix thinks about stuff. And then 3 chapters. First, I'm going to help you understand what I call the DHM model. And then I'm going to apply this notion of consumer science in one area of the company, which is to show how personalization grew up over time. This idea of connecting you with movies you'll love. And then I'm going to take a modern day case. Netflix needs your help. And I'm going to share with you some experiment results and see what you think about this idea. Are you ready? I'm going to double your paychecks. You're now Netflix employees. I hope it feels good. Okay. So one thing about my job as a product leader, and that's what I've done at all these companies, it's very simple and easy for me to explain. It's really, really hard to do. So my job is quite simple. The job is to delight customers in hard-to-copy margin-enhancing ways. And what's meant here is the margin-enhancing, just fancy way of saying help make a business so that you can have profits, that you can invest in building it even better in product. So hopefully we will satisfy you someday, right? And then the hard copy was really very much a result of my horrible experience with Kevin O'Leary and the devaluation of that. So I want to share with you a little bit more about this model because it's quite hard. There's a balancing act between this idea of delight and margin. So you would all be delighted if Netflix chopped your prices in half and you got the same thing. That would delight you, but it's got horrible ramifications in margin. I just want to share with you in one particular, this is one of the early experiments where we really thought through these models at Netflix. So in the old days of DVDs go back and forth, and everybody wanted the new release DVDs. 2 months after the movie came out in the theater, we finally had the DVDs. And unfortunately, 50,000 people wanted those DVDs, but we only had 25,000 copies. So there were a lot of unhappy customers. And if you talk to them, they all said the same thing. In focus groups, we want our new release DVDs faster. In survey, if you ask them, how could the survey be better? They say, get us our new release disc better. All of these things. Give us the new release disc quickly. So we tested it. We created this experience. Back then, we had about 1 million customers. Today, there's about 150 million. It worked out nicely. But for about 10,000 customers, we gave them this perfect new release experience. They got their new release DVDs the next day in the mail. A perfect experience. You curious about the test results? So the way that we measure delight is retention, right? So in the old days of Netflix, 10% of the customers would cancel every month. That's bad, okay? Today, it's about 2% cancel every month. And really for 2 reasons. There's no money in their bank account, or it's summer and maybe they shouldn't be rotting their brains out, okay? At this time, the retention was about 4.5%. 4.5% of our customers canceled every month. So the question is, in this perfect experience, did it change retention? How many people believe that these people will notice that they're getting their new release DVDs instantly in the mail and they will retain a little bit better. How many people believe this? Wow, you guys are curmudgeons. Half believe me. You know, that is exactly the right answer. Here's the result. It changed from 4.5 to only 4.45, a very small improvement in retention. It was shocking to us because these folks were yelling at it, how much they wanted it. So let me take you through the math on the balancing act between delight and margin. If you roll out this test to all million customers, you will save 5,000 customers. They'll stay in the service because of this experience. The other side of it, this is worth about $1 million to the company. And the calculation there is you have 5,000 customers you saved. The lifetime value at the time was $100 times 2. And the 2 was a word of mouth factor. The theory was that person would rave about the service and they'd tell a friend, and we'd bring them into the membership for free. This is how we did the math. So the value of this perfect experience is $1 million. But it cost us $5 million in additional inventory. How do you feel about this balancing act between delight and margin right now? What's the math look like to you, Eric? Oh, good. Good evaluation. Great. So the simple thing is, do you roll it out to all or not? And we chose not to. Does anybody want to make a cogent argument for why Netflix might have considered rolling out to all? It has to do with the one number that was an assumption that's really unknown. Yes? Okay, 1 is the lifetime value will go up, and that's a really hard number to move. Other ideas? Yes? Underestimated the word of mouth. It's not 2. Amazon would argue that it's 8. And if you used 8, that would have made good sense. This number was almost impossible for us to figure out, and we didn't. But that's a great argument, okay, for why. And by the way, we couldn't afford it either. We just didn't have the money. But what I'm trying to do is illustrate this balancing act between delight and margin. Now, this notion of hard to copy. H.B. Mock was the product manager. His job, this is called the non-member page. This gets people to click the red Start Now page and start their free membership. That's the job. And he had this amazing result. He put a happy family on the couch, and more people converted into the service. He was so excited. He was like a puppy, okay? And I'm not that kind of guy. I'm like the bastard, right? And I said, HB, that's awesome. You delighted them. I think it's going to help our business. But is it really hard to copy? Because I'm betting those bastards from Blockbuster are going to copy it within a month, which is exactly what they did, okay? There they were with the happy family. And this is the notion of hard to copy and why it's so important. So what is hard to copy about Netflix? I have in my pocket $100 million for any entrepreneur in the room that would like to start a startup to compete with Netflix. And what are the hard to copy advantages that make that hard for you? What's hard to copy about Netflix? The what? The algorithm, okay? Netflix has some wonderfully unique technology. They know your member tastes, all of you. They know what you were watching last night. It's a huge advantage. Unique technology. In specific, one of them is personalization. What else is hard to copy? The original content, right? And what I call that's because they're so freaking big, they can afford to spend, they spent $13 billion on original content last year. Poor Amazon could only spend $4 billion, okay? Hulu, like 2, like poor, oh, that's so sad. That advantage is called an economy of scale. So we've got unique technology, we've got economy of scale. What else is hard to copy about Netflix? The what? Did you say the contracts?
No, the company culture.
Oh, the company culture. That's a great argument. Thank you. Were you there last night? No. Okay, good. Okay. Well, it was fun. Anyways, what about the product is hard to copy? I'm going to keep you away from culture. Good answer, though. What else? What? Yeah, all the deals. That's the original content. Keep going. I'm waiting. What? It's super easy, simple, arguable. By the way, did anybody watch April's talk this morning? What else is hard to copy? The brand. Thank you. You guys trust Netflix with your credit card. You don't trust punk startups, right? You're a little wary about sharing your credit card information with whatever punk startup it is. I'm fishing for one more idea that's hard to copy. That's the economy of scale. Huge customer base. What else? Close. Tell me more. That's what I'm fishing for, okay? Every device on the planet lets you stream instantly to your television. That's actually called a network effect in this case. So those are the four things that I was fishing for. And here are all the examples from Netflix that's wicked hard to copy, right? And this was my hard lesson from my work with Mr. Wonderful. Damn him. All right. So then I want you to think about what are all the possible ideas around delighting customers in hard-to-copy, margin-enhancing way. And this is the answer. These were the 8 high-level theories we engaged in. I pounded on some of these ideas for 3, 4, and 5 years. There's the social strategy, friends. You're going to connect with your friends. You'll get great movie ideas from your friends. Create a network effect. You won't leave your friends. This is potentially delight customers in hard-to-copy, margin-enhancing ways. 8 theories. How many worked out for Netflix? By the way, the movie ends well. Netflix didn't die. How many times did they get it right? Do you want to guess? 50% is an awesome guess, right? In fact, early days, only 3 of these ideas worked. And then it turned out that we had opened up the APIs, no flowers bloomed, but that was the work that enabled all the device ecosystem work. We tested exclusive content in 2008. It failed under Red Envelope Studios. It worked great with House of Cards in 2012 when Netflix had a huge economy of scale. How many have watched House of Cards? Okay, so it worked out, right? But my theory here is Netflix's big success was high cadence failure. And how quickly can you learn? Do you remember that theory of friends? You're going to share your movie ideas with friends. You won't leave because your friends are there. What's wrong with that theory? Okay, I heard one, which is I really don't want my friends to know what I watched last night. And what's the other problem? There is Facebook.
It's a guilty pleasure.
Oh, it is a guilty pleasure. You don't want them to know. Your friends' movie tastes suck. That was the other problem, okay? 3 years. I mean, imagine you're in Silicon Valley. Every VC saying, what's your social strategy? Because Facebook was doing so damn well. Did not work for us. Amazing. This is about experimentation and invention, and it's hard. So if I want to look smart, this is the product strategy for Netflix. It was all about personalization, instant delivery of DVDs the next day in the mail, and then streaming. It was about making simple and easy. We improved retention through that. It was about building that device ecosystem where every device in the world. And then we were always engaged in price and business model testing forever. Never stopped that. These were examples of projects or tactics against each of the strategies. At any moment in time, we were executing ideas against the key strategies. And at any moment in time, we had proxy metrics that helped us to evaluate if the strategies were working or not. At the end of the day, we were trying to make retention better. But retention is really hard to move. So we had a variety of proxy metrics. And I'll introduce you to some of these proxy metrics when I move on to the journey of personalization. But for me, this is what product strategy looks like. So this notion of consumer science, of let's test it, let's see what works. The notion, for me, there's really 4 sources. You're trying to develop consumer insight. Really understand what resonates with customers and doesn't. How to satisfy my 0 to 6 detractors. I still love you. And the ways were qualitative in focus groups, talking with them. Surveys. I did a Net Promoter survey right at the beginning of this. Looking at the existing data and trying to find patterns that will help you to form hypotheses. And the big dog at Netflix is A/B testing. So what I'd like to do now is take you on the journey about how this scientific method worked in one very specific area, which is personalization. The mission was to connect people with movies that they love, and that's what personalization was all about. This is what the site looked like in 2005. I want you to notice a tab called Recommendations. That was our little petri dish for experimenting with personalizations. I will tell you something. In the world of personalization, never, ever, ever use the word recommendation. Okay? Talk to people like human. Like, you don't recommend that somebody go out to coffee with someone, right? This is just stupid. Okay? Well, we learned this. You'll notice Friends is there. Poor Friends, it died. Notice some other stupid things. We were aggressively merchandising on the homepage expensive new releases that we couldn't deliver to people the next day. And then you see the Netflix first. That was the experiment in exclusives. Tell me when you're taking it so I can suck into my stomach, okay? Yeah, all the time. All right, so here is, personalization was one of the swim lanes, one of the pods. I managed like 10 different product managers. This is the work of Todd Yellen in the personalization area. And these were his high-level strategies in this area. The first was get explicit data from you. This was star ratings from all of you to understand your movie taste. Understand what you were watching and not. When you quit, that's implicit data. Get to know you and get to know all the data of movies and then use these magic algorithms to connect the two together. And there was one other theory, which is over time, if the average quality of the movies that you watched got better and better, you'd stay with the service more. These are 4 theories. 3 of them worked. 1 failed. And you can begin to guess about what the failure is. Now, you know how this ended. But I'm going to take you on the journey, and you're going to see how confusing it can be. Here are the proxy metrics to help us to validate whether each of these strategies was going to work or not. Again, I'm going to share how we used them along the way. Same thing, Todd's area. For each of these strategies, he was able to articulate a very specific set of projects or tactics. By the way, I love when we take the photos. I'm going to give you a link to the PDF. So if you get tired of the whole arm thing, I'll give you a link at the end, I promise you. Okay, but I love to know what you're interested in. Okay, so just like, oh, that's good. Okay, great. So here I am. I take you on the journey. You can see the site's getting a little bit better now. So one of the proxy metrics was for personalization. The theory was this: if you rated a lot of movies, it was a signal that you valued the output of it. You rate a lot of movies because you know you're going to get higher quality movies merchandised to you. This was our proxy metric to understand whether folks valued personalization. So here's my first pop quiz. What percentage of members rated at least 50 movies, that's a 50, in their first 6 weeks with the service? Did you just say nothing? Okay, that is my curmudgeon in the room. Okay, so let's block it out. Pick a number between 0 and 100. That's the only clue I give you. How many have chosen from 0 to 5? Cool. 5 to 10. 10 to 15. 15 to 20. You're running out of energy. 20 to 25. Okay, between 25 and 30? Anybody? Okay, well, that's the right answer. Thank you. Okay, that's a surprising result. Okay, let me give you a little insight. Do you see that little tab, Movies You'll Heart? The design team said that was fugly. I think that's like a design term. It's like funky plus ugly. The 4 designers, yes? Okay, well, anyways, that little fugly thing did amazing work. People clicked on it. And we invented, after lots of experiments, this thing that we called the ratings wizard. And it drove that metric all the way up to about 28%, which is really the right answer. Do you notice the line dropping down to the right towards the end? What's going on there? There is change. What? No, those, what? Streaming. And the value in the implicit signal of what you chose to continuing watching or not was much more valuable to us than the explicit rating of stars. And that's why it started to fall off. This is the rating wizard. This is what they were clicking on. They were coming here and they were going on these ratings jags, like going crazy, rating all the movies that they had watched. And this was the invention of something that gave us all that explicit data. We collected 10 billion star ratings to understand all your movie tastes. Okay? Surprising. This is my family. I'm awkward 57. I'm owning my age. I worked on Oregon trails, just so you know how old I am. Okay? Yeah. That's Brittany. She's 21. Kelsey's 23. They think I'm too old to be on Twitter. So I'd appreciate it if you follow me. That's Kristen. Kristen's trying to cure cancer. Okay? So here's the question. Is it helpful for Netflix to know our age and gender? Will that help to predict our movie tastes? This is a very simple yes or no. So how many yeses do we have? And how many no's do we have? Wow. Okay, just so you know, there are a lot of yeses. Big surprising result to us, it does not help predict movie taste. What's much more helpful is to know one or two other movies or TV shows that you liked. A radically surprising result. How did we know? We had, our proxy metric for this was called RMSE, root mean squared error. I predict that you'll like Star Wars, 4 stars? 3.5. I'm only off by a half, thank God. And you'll like Full House, 2 stars? Okay. What's something that sucks that you have watched? Oh, or great, I don't care. Yeah. And I'm just trying to understand your movie taste. It doesn't have to be. Oh, okay. Okay. And how many stars? 0. Okay. Let's imagine that I got both of those exactly right. And RMSE is one of these things that you drive it down and to the right. So you're trying to go to 0. We entered age and gender into the system, and it didn't improve our ability to predict your movie ratings. Really surprising. Okay? Huh. Fascinating. You do notice that it did get better over time. And there were a lot of other insight that we got to help us with that. The main thing was this idea of collaborative filtering. So collaborative filtering, it basically says if you like Star Wars and Star Trek, and you like Star Wars and Star Trek, you like any other TV show or movie, just pick one. Or hate, whatever you want. This is the old, do you like Breaking Bad? No? Oh, damn you. House of Cards? No? Oh, well, you've really stumped me now. How about you? Do you have another movie that you like or hate? Well, just tell me it. It doesn't matter if it's on Netflix. Which is it? The Daily Show. Great. So collaborative filtering says, because you like Daily Show, you'll like Daily Show too. This is just math. And you do math for 150 million people, and that's what collaborative filtering does. It gives no context of why you will like it. Like, because you like Star Wars and Star Trek, we think you'll love Sesame Street. Like, what? Okay, this is how collaborative filtering worked, but it worked great. And our little problem was we only had one engineer focused on this. And we didn't have a lot of money, so we did something called the Netflix Prize. Has anyone here heard the Netflix Prize? Yeah. We said, we'll give $1 million to anybody who can build a better collaborative filtering algorithm. If you can improve RMSE by at least 10%. And we went from 1 engineer to 10,000 engineers, which was really, 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 really good. And actually, you can pick up a few insights from the leaders here. Look at these team names. They're like total craziness. Belcour's Pragmatic Chaos, or look at Opera Solutions and Vandelay United. Okay? Like Seinfeld fans, right? Belcour's Pragmatic Chaos, which is really AT&T Labs, they did it. We gave them the $1 million. Now you have this shiny new algorithm that's 10% better at predicting your movie taste. We paid the $1 million, and the question is this. Will the new algorithm move the big dog metric of retention? Wow. Okay, all the engineers in the room? I hope you're hopeful. Okay, how many believe this is going to improve retention? Cool, and how many are curmudgeonly saying no? Yeah, and sadly, this was a no. Very sad. The main insight, and this will make the 4 designers in the room feel quite good. Most of our games were a combination of the bright engineering work and some presentation layer work. So at this point, we knew more algorithms are better. And so we created something called the category interest algorithm. So notice, hey Gib, because you liked Airplane and Heathers, I'm revealing way too much about my movie taste, we think you'll like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and The Breakfast Club, and a category of movies called cult comedies from the 1980s. This is all true, okay? And we learned this new algorithm. There was an experiment at Pandora where they had 40 people doing the music genome project. We did the same. We did a movie genome project. We had 50 people down in LA tagging all the attributes of all these movies. And it helped improve retention. This combination of shiny new algorithm, lots of algorithms, plus presentation layer to give context about what you will like or not like. It was quite cool. All right, Crystal Chenkuti, her job was to make it easy in the DVD era for you to find movies that you added to your list of movies. That's her job. And she drove her proxy metric, percentage of members who added at least 60 DVDs a month to their queue. Americans call it queue. I'm really sorry. And she drove it up and to the right, and then it started dropping. Why did it drop? Yeah, it's streaming. Because Brent Avery's job was to the percentage of members who watched at least 15 minutes in a month to drive it up and to the right, which he did handily. And it was very exciting because sometime around 2010, Netflix went from being a DVD by mail company to a streaming company. And the exciting thing about that was now Netflix can expand internationally. Because you don't have to worry about all these integrations with post offices, et cetera. And so now Netflix is an international company. This is very exciting. All sorts of new questions about personalization. So here's my fourth pop quiz question for you. A person is in France. It's helpful to know their French. Should the algorithm be informed of that? Will that help predict movie tastes? So how many people believe, yes, of course it will? And how many people are a little bit wary? Yeah, gosh. The answer is no, it's freaky. So what I want you to understand, that it's not helpful to know if you're American or Canadian. What's much more helpful is to know one or two or three things that you like. If you ever want to have fun at Netflix, go home tonight and set up a new profile for your kid or some fictitious person in the family. I make the mistake all the time. I go to Airbnbs and I forget to log out. So everybody's always jumping onto my account. But when you do that, all it asks is, tell me which of these three titles you like. It's very simple. You just want a little clue. It doesn't ask what's your age and gender, and it doesn't ask, are you French? It's way cool. And this is the journey of personalization. Because remember that damn company, Facebook? They went worldwide way before us, and they created this damn system of thumbs up and thumbs down. This simple and easy gesture where all the poor Netflix members were having to use this 5-star system like, is it a 3? Is it a 4? Is it a 2? I have no freaking idea. I'm getting out of here. And you test this, big A/B test. What wins? Thumbs up and thumbs down or stars? Thumbs up and thumbs down. You get twice as much explicit data because of the easy gesture of thumbs up and thumbs down. And my point is this is an easy decision because you can do the A/B testing. Remember the fourth theory? That over time, if average rating gets better and better, people will retain better. And there was no data to support this, which is very twisted and bizarre and a real head-scratcher. So in this case, we went out and talked to humans, okay? We talked to people about their movie tastes. We said, what kind of movies do you love? And they say the same thing, like, oh yeah, I watched a documentary last night, or I watched Hotel Rwanda. And if you really kept asking, you began to learn a little bit more about their guilty pleasures. Some of them had watched Paul Blart Mall Cop. In fact, they loved it, incredibly enjoyable, and they rated it 3 stars. And the insight was actually, we were trying to deliver movie enjoyment, and movie enjoyment is not about star ratings. That people love Paul Blart Mall Cop so freaking much that they had to do Paul Blart Mall Cop 2, okay? And this was the insight. It's all about enjoyment. And then where does this take you? The first big deal for original content for Netflix was a 6-movie deal with the ultimate leave your brains at the door comedian, okay? This was the title, The Ridiculous Six. The review said, if you found Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 too intellectually demanding, you'll love The Ridiculous Six, okay? But this was out of the insight. It's not about the quality, it's about what people enjoy. And so if you look very carefully today at Netflix, Casino is a 98% match for me. It's not making any statement about the quality. It's just saying, hey, Gib, we think you'll enjoy this. And this is just another result of this whole consumer science journey that was just so surprising for us. I'm going to tell you one really, really cool thing about personalization. Netflix knows the member tastes of 150 million people in the world. What they are doing is essentially right-sizing their investment. So they knew that 100 million people would enjoy Stranger Things. And so they invested 500 million. How many have watched Stranger Things? Yeah, they got it right, okay? Again, I'm going to reveal way too much about my movie taste. Their prediction, their prediction was 10 million people, including me, would enjoy BoJack Horseman. Is anybody with me? Oh, thank you so much for playing. You guys are awesome. Okay. and because they know only 10 million based on their movie taste, then they're going to make an investment something like 50 million. So this is what they're doing in every case, which is they're simply trying to right size, using all this personalization data, the right investment. It's a huge advantage in building the business and building margin. It's really totally amazing. All right, so I told you I'd bring it into the today. So I have a case for you. Netflix desperately needs your help. The question is, today you engage in a free trial. You click a button, you hand over your credit card if you're a new member, and you get 30 days free, a month free. And the question is, should they remind you on day 27 that your free trial is about to end? Should they text you, free trial is about to end? Send an email, free trial is about to end. Your personalized homepage, your free trial is about to end. This is the question. This is what the screen looks like. Now I'm going to arm you with a little bit of existing data. I want you to think for a moment about what % of folks click on that big red button, hand over their credit card to start the trial. So if 100 people came to the site, how many would engage in the free trial? Think about that number for a moment. So here's the data that I'm going to hand to you. This idea originated because people in customer support were taking lots of phone calls from people in day 32 saying, I forgot to cancel. And Netflix did the right thing. They said, we'll back it out. It's all good. But it turns out that this costs the company $10 million. And a bright product manager said, why don't we do the free trial reminder? Is this worth testing, experimenting? Do you guys think so? Yeah. Okay, so what's the number? Out of 100 people, what % are going to click on the red button? You got a 5 back there, okay? Other numbers? 30 is my enthusiastic response, and what's the most curmudgeonly number people want to guess here? 2.5. That's strangely precise. Okay, so the answer is 2. 2%. Surprisingly low, right? And then the other number that's super important here is what % at the end of the free trial stick with the service and become paying members? That is the question. What's the answer, Robin? 50%. He's got a good over-under number, right? How many want to go over 50%? How many people want to go under 50%? Wow, so this is a surprise too. I'm arming you with existing data. The answer is 90%, right? It's like they enjoy that first month. Okay, so now we're going to do the test. You take a bunch of people in a test cell, that new members, and you super aggressively let them know that your month is almost up. Do you think this is going to change customer behavior? Yes, you do. the number's going to go from 90 to what? 85? Is that what you guessed? You think it's going to be higher? Okay, I'm going to come back to you with the less cheated, okay? It's going to go down by how much? 20 points. It's going to go from 90 to 70. Yeah, that's a good guess. Okay, so it did change from 90 to 85%. So you're the product manager for this. Congratulations, you just lost 50 million bucks. That's the result. Is this like nervous laughter? What's going on here? Okay, but I want you to think a second. Your job is to delight customers in hard-to-copy, margin-enhancing ways. We know the margin story. You just lost 50 million. So my question is, what about the delight? Is there some delight hiding in here? Yeah, what are you thinking? They do, and you brought it up, right? Like, would you feel good about a company that did this? Like, is that a potentially delightful? Like, they reminded me. Like, I was busy. It was summer. There is some potential delight there. And what is the hard-to-copy thing that's at work here? Trust. And trust turns into what brand? Brand! Okay, so we're delighted. We're creating an even better hard-to-copy advantage in the brand, and we're losing 50 million. What should we do? Okay, a couple of questions. Is this a high or low-stakes decision? It's high. Why? It's 50 million, except Netflix is making 13 billion this year. This is low stakes. The brand is a high-stakes issue, okay? There's one other thing that makes this decision very low stakes. What is it? It's totally reversible. Okay? You can flick the button the other way. Most of the decisions that we make are reversible, and we treat them like, marriage is reversible, okay? I'm still married, okay, 27 years. Oh, damn it. Okay. Yeah, so this is a low-stakes decision. And then who makes this decision? Who makes it? The customer. Interesting. The customer's already spoken. We have their data, and we use our judgment to decide what's best to do. Who makes this decision? What are my choices? Who makes it? Me? When I was there, I was a muckety-muck. This was not my decision. This is not the VP of Product's decision. Whose is it? It's your job. You're the product manager. They make the decision. All right, so how many of you would just frickin' roll this out to all? Lose 50 million in prospect of delight and building even more hard-to-copy advantage and brand. Who is ready to roll this out to all? Can I talk some more of you into it? Okay? This was Tom Willer's decision, and he did it. He did it. Okay? Notice Netflix has the money today. They couldn't do this thing back in the old days with that new release DVD thing. And what can you learn from this? Send it to all. He shipped it to everybody. What do you learn? This is a low-stakes decision. It's reversible. And remember that when you are weighing these decisions. The second was when you have these opportunities later on to double down on delight, to really delight your customer, just do it. And the last thing is there is a cost of ethics in building a world-class brand. In this case, it's $50 million. But if you can afford it, it's a good thing to do. And I'm really showing how to bring this DHM model to life for you. The other thing I want to illustrate is the culture of Netflix. Netflix is all about good fights make good marriages. Again, I'm still married. You'd have fearsome debates, and then somebody would make a decision, and all the people that thought Tom Willer was an idiot magically said, this is good, went along with him. All right, so there's a couple more things required on this journey. The first is you need courage. Netflix took an hour to make the decision to spend $100 million on House of Cards. It took 20 minutes to make the decision to suspend it when Kevin Spacey was implicated for sexual harassment. That takes courage. The second is patience. My joke is it only takes 20 years to build a great company. Okay? And the third, do you notice this little blip? It's at around 2011. The market cap went from 40 billion to 10 billion. That's when Netflix in the States decided to try to separate its DVD and streaming business in something called Quickster. It was a very, 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 very bad outcome. So this was within a week, okay, what people were talking about. And this takes humility. So it's this mix. From time to time, you're going to get it wrong, and that's okay. And that's what happens in a world of experimentation. So when I'm working with different companies, to understand if they're obsessed, I really look for 5 different things. The first is, do they have access to existing data? Do they have data focus? Are they thinking, do they understand what creates customer and shareholder value? The next thing I look for is, are they talking to customers in qualitative? Are they doing one-on-one research? Are they doing usability? Are they talking to folks about Paul Bart Mall Cop 2? I started today with a survey. It's very simple to do. It's very easy to isolate those folks that give it 0 and 6, and there's real insight in that. Anybody can do the survey. And the big dog at Netflix is this ability to A/B test, which was full of surprising results. And the last is, have a strategy. Be able to articulate how you propose to delight customers in these hard-to-copy, margin-enhancing ways, and have the proxy metrics and the tactics lined up against this. And these are all the things that I look for today, and I hope you will execute tomorrow in an obsessive way. So for me, customer obsession is about putting the customer at the center of everything you do to delight customers in hard-to-copy, margin-enhancing ways to invent the future. And with that, I say thank you.
I need some traction. You need some traction. Let's get some traction.